Today, as you know, is the session Ask the Expert on RSS feeds. We called it both RSS feeds and we called it a new book list or a new item list. The RSS feed at the current time works on physical items. Some of the questions, 3 of the questions which came in fact, all dealt with can we use the RSS feed also for electronic items? The answer is at the current time, no, but it's on the roadmap. We'll get to the questions at a later stage. The way we want to set this up today, or the way we want to do the session today, is first to go through perhaps about a half hour, half of our full time, and go through a full flow here of how do we set up the RSS feed. Judging from the questions, which may be broken down into 2 categories, 1, technical, and 2, roadmap style, such as, like I mentioned, when will we include non-physical items in the RSS feeds and how to set up the formats and will ISBN be included, etc. We're going to break this down into how do we actually set it up, then the specific questions. So I think this would be the best way to go about it, and then the questions would be more relevant after we see how it's set up. So without further ado, let's begin. I'm still not sharing my desktop, but that's all right. I didn't do anything yet. Let's take a look at who we've got on here now. Training team, Chris Sloan, Craig Murray, Lynn, McQuarrie, Patrina, Shirley, and I'm here also with my colleague Rael from the Primo team. So if anything should come up on the Primo side, where we need a top quality, high level Primo specialist, well then we're covered on that end too. Okay, so let's begin. And what we'll do is we'll start by setting up an RSS feed. So I have here my Primo, I have here my Alma. And I have here a presentation on setting up the RSS feed. And then I have, of course, the questions here, which we'll get to in what is now our 20th session. This is my reminder that I should record the session. And we'll go through the questions. In any case, let's begin now setting up an RSS. Now, the first step in setting up an RSS feed is to define what exactly do we want to have included in our RSS feed. And that is create a physical item set. So in my Alma here, I will do a physical items search for anything. Let's choose anything. So right now we're with the primarily Australia, the Asia Pacific area, though we've had a lot of California and West Coast people hook up to this one because it's late evening there. Let's take, for example, kangaroo. We should have some kangaroo things in here because we used kangaroo once for another lecture we did. I don't recall exactly what. Let's just get rid of this. Okay. And let's see what we got. Kangaroo. Okay. And nothing, you've got to be kidding me. Let's try kangaroos and see what we got. Okay, 4. That's good. So we have 4 items for, they're all not in place. Let's choose something else. Sorry about that. Bibliometrics. I think we already did bibliometrics. Let's take, I see here the biblical, let's take library. That'll give us 1 million libraries. Whoa. We want to take a small set. Sorry about this. It shouldn't take so long for this. I know what we'll do. We'll do libraries, but we'll put libraries in the title. That'll really bring it down quite a bit. 150, perfect. Okay. So we'll save this query. And we'll call this libraries in the title. This is a physical item set with libraries in the title. Wonderful. Everything's ready to go. Save. We have now officially completed our first step, which is create a physical item set. Now, the next part, this is the physical item set. The next part is a little more complicated, but we're not going to dwell on it for too long. What we need to do is set up what's called an RSS discovery URL. And the RSS discovery URL, as it states here, is under the Administration General Configuration menu. Here's my Administration General Configuration menu. And in the other settings here, we have RSS discovery URL. Now, the reason we're not going to dwell on it for too long is because this will be set up once, either at the time of implementation or later on by support. Most likely it's already set up on everybody's environment. And from then on, you never have to touch it. So we don't really need to spend a long time on it. I copied it to my mouse, and I'm just going to put it out here. This is my RSS discovery URL. We're just going to look at the parts of it in case you ever do want to change it, but there's no need for us to have a full in-depth session on it. So let's take a brief look. I have here my Alma URL. I have here my Primo URL. And then I have my RSS discovery URL, which takes parts of Alma and Primo in the Primo back office, etc. And let's see how it does that. So there's 8 different parts of it. And the first part is the Primo domain. So if I look here, for example, this is my Primo URL. That's going to be the beginning of my RSS discovery URL right here. So this part here, which I have highlighted, and this part here, which I have highlighted, are identical. And that's what we've got right here. Okay, next. The second part is the string Primo library libweb action dl search.do. And again, that's what we've got here up to here. That's our first 2 parts, Primo domain, and then this string. Next. The third part is the institution code. Now this is the Primo institution code, not the Alma institution code. Let me stop sharing my desktop for 1 minute because I want to go into my Primo back office, but again, we're not going to dwell on this. And I'm just closing my share the desktop just to make sure that by chance there's not going to be any usernames and passwords displayed, and I'm already logged in, so I can already reshare the desktop. There we go. Okay, and so if I go here to my back here, so we make sure everything's proper. We want the Primo institution, not the Alma institution. And if I go to Primo Home, ongoing configuration wizards, institution wizards, here we are, ongoing configuration wizards, institution wizards. I see here the institution that I'm using is this one here. It happens to also be the same name as my Alma institution. In my specific case here, that's not always the case, however, and it's the one which is found in Primo. Yeah, if we go inside here, we'll see exactly what the code is, and here it is. The Primo institution code is right here. Okay. It corresponds to my Alma institution code, which in my case we said is the same, but that's not always going to be the situation. Okay, great. Next, and that is right here. Next is the VID, and The fourth part is the BID. The BID we can take right from the Primo URL. And here's my Primo URL, and I've got it in my RSS Discovery URL as well. Then we have the tab. In this case, tab equals default tab. Let's take a look there. This is an important part, actually, and it's an interesting part as well. The fifth part is the default tab. The tab default tab is the tab which may be seen, okay, if we go Primo Home, Ongoing Configuration Wizards, Views Wizard. So let's do that. Ongoing Configuration Wizards, Views Wizard, and this is the one let me find ours, this is the one we're using right here. So we'll go Edit, and we'll go Save and Continue, and we're going to move two ways forward. First we're going to go to the Scopes list, and we're going to click one more time to continue. Great. Here's my tabs configuration. This is the one we're going to use, the default tab. And so we put this right here. Now the search scope equals Alma. We were actually just in the search scope when we got here, right? Okay, let's go take a look here. That's the default tab. Now the sixth part is the search scope. The search scope is the name within the selected tab. So again, this is our default tab where we just were. Here's our default tab. If we click Edit here on this tab, now we have our scope names. Now, if you notice here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. The first one, Alma PC. We're going to see why is it called Alma PC. Then we have Alma PC and Alma Consortium. Who can guess what PC stands for? Let's see. Who can tell me what PC stands for? I'm going to give three choices. Is it personal computer, politically correct, Primo Central, or Pennsylvania Central, or maybe Perth Central? Who wants to guess? Primo Central, that's right. We have that right answer already. Okay, so if we look at these four here, this is an important part. These correspond to these four scopes. This is Alma University and Primo Central, Alma University, Primo Central, Alma Consortium, and that's the four scope names here. When we're going to get our RSS feed and automatically click the link, it's going to go, we want it to go to Alma University. We don't want it to go to the Consortium or to Primo Central. So we're going to choose Alma University as our scope. Excuse me, we're going to choose Alma as our scope, which corresponds in logical words here in the pull down to Alma University. Let's go on. So we have scope equals Alma here, corresponding to scope name Alma. The seventh part is the source ID. Okay, the source ID you can get in a million different ways, actually just 3 different ways. There's a few different ones here. If we do a search for anything in Primo, and we go to the Details tab and go here to the Open this item in a new window, we're always going to get the, let's go to our thing for a moment, here. It's always going to be here after the and doc. So here it's Primo underline Alma is our source ID. Same here. Let me take the whole thing with me just so I don't have to search inside there. And doc, Control F, and doc. Oh, maybe I got to go up. There it is. Okay, so here's one way of getting our source ID. Of course, we have more elegant ways, let's call them. where we can go into Alma, into Primo back office. Again, we'll go to the ongoing configuration wizards, and this time we're going to go to the pipe configuration wizard. So, ongoing configuration wizards, pipe configuration wizards, and then pipe data sources configuration. And for EXL Dev 1 Inst, we see that Primo Alma is our source ID. Okay. Just like it says here. Okay, that's the 7th part. And the 8th part is the RSS discovery URL as a string, this. @ Alma end @ and here she is. That's our RSS discovery URL. Let's not spend too long, but let's see, are there any questions or comments until this stage? No questions or comments. Okay, then let's move on. This I will leave here, actually, just in case we want it. What's our next step? Step 3, create the RSS publishing profile. Okay, this we don't even need to look at the URL here. Here we are. I'm going to get out of the back office, right? We don't need to go into the back office again, and it's just dangerous to leave something like that open. We're not going to need it anymore. If we do, we'll go back in. Log out. Okay, and I don't need that either. Okay. Creating the RSS profile. So, like all of our publishing profiles, RSS is a type of publishing. We go to the resource configuration menu, then to the publishing profiles, and now we'll add a new one. Now what do we call this? Libraries in the title, right? So we're going to add a profile here. When we choose add profile, we can do a general profile, which is a really nice feature. Maybe we'll actually do a session. Yes, that sounds like a great session to do. In fact, allow me on your time to, this email gets stuck sometimes, sorry about that. I'm going to say new Ask the Expert session on general publishing profile. We made a brand new general publishing profile, which is very powerful. You can do it with OAI PMH, you can do it on a set, you can expand holding and item information right into it. I'm just going to write myself a note here, and I'll take care of that later. Okay, so a new RSS publishing profile. So, profile name can be anything you want, spaces, uppercase, lowercase, foreign script, whatever you want. And we'll call this Word Libraries in the title. Profile description. A set of items for records which include I'll make this somewhat okay, considering we're recording it, so for prosperity's sake, so whatever that word is, people won't think I don't know how to spell. Scheduling. Okay, we can schedule it various times. I'm not going to schedule it right now. Feed name. Now, the feed name needs to not have spaces. And I'll call this Word Libraries in the title, and I'll just make underlines between them, because this is later going to be part of the URL. I think technically we could have spaces and then later fill them in with %20, which is a space in HTML, but let's not get too fancy there. English, feed title, fine. Word Libraries in the title, feed. He's hungry. RSS feed description, we'll make sure we feed him. This is a feed for a set of items. Set name. Now, if you recall, the first thing we did was we made a physical item set with Word Libraries in the title. Now we're going to choose that set. I click the magnifying glass. Had the libraries in the title, right? Where is it? There it is, libraries in the title. Physical items, as you can see here, I only have physical items. Select, and that should do it. Now, population, select the population, maximum number of days ago, minimum number of days ago. Now, the way it works is it includes only records which have an item with a receiving date, in this case between 2 and 60 days ago. That way, always in the list will be records which arrived recently. Let's make this between 2 and 30 days ago. That means the list will have records which arrived in the last month, basically. Add. Okay, so now we have our publishing set. Let's see, where is it? Here it is. We've made our publishing set. What's our next step? Create the 6 parts of the RSS feed URL. Okay. Now, when we retrieve this RSS feed, we're going to have to put a URL into the browser or into our RSS feed. There used to be software for RSS feeds. I don't know if there still are. I remember in the early days of Aleph, you could either use a browser or an actual piece of software. I think now people just use browsers. In any case, we need a URL. So how do we get that URL? Oh, that's creating that. Okay, number 4. Let's, just like our other one, it's a set of parts based on our Alma URL. We've got a sample here, and let's see the parts of it. So the first part is the Alma URL up to and not including the string institution. Okay, so let's build it ourselves. Up to and not including the word institution, so I'm going to say this part here. Now, we are building together our RSS feed URL. So we're following instructions in this presentation that somebody made, and that's our first part. Next, the second part is the string this. Okay, that's pretty simple. I'm just going to copy and paste it, and there we go. Next, by the way, we're going to be putting this URL soon into the actual profile. So after the profile is built, it'll automatically get in there, and you'll just be able to copy and paste it. But for now, let's understand how we make it. Next, the third part is the Alma institution code. Okay, no problem. So it's going to be institution code equals the Alma institution code. This is my Alma institution code I'm taking from the Alma URL, and I'm just going to paste it right in. Wonderful. Next. The fourth part is the string and file equals. Okay, that's pretty simple without the apostrophes. We'll knock that one out, and we'll knock that one out. Next. The fifth part is the feed name. Okay, if you recall, I said we're going to have a feed name without spaces, and we could get spaces and put %20, but we didn't want to get too fancy. Let's go get our feed name. Actions, edit. Here's our feed name. Copy. Boom. Which is essentially the file, the part of the URL. Okay, next. Back here. Okay. The sixth part is the string and type equals RSS. We'll stick that in. And now we have our RSS feed URL. Okay, the rest from here is very easy. Verify that there is data for the feed. What do we need data for the feed? We need something in this set which has a receiving date between 30 and 2 days ago. Pretty simple. Let's make sure we get at least 3 or 4 records in there. So here I am in Alma. I'm going to go to Manage Sets. Then I'm going to go to Libraries in the title, Actions Results. And let's just get a couple of these. This looks like a nice one. The Future Libraries, Dreams, Madness, and Reality. Ooh. So let's give this a receiving date between 2 and 30 days ago. Today is July 2nd. Let's give them June 25th. Save. And collection development for libraries, another interesting item. Let's give him a receiving date between 2 and 30 days ago, June 24th. Save. And libraries and museums, Australia. That's an interesting one. Canberra. Items, receiving dates. Of course, the receiving date normally would get filled in by itself after acquisitions when doing receiving. So now we've got 3 examples. In American libraries and special libraries, let's take something interesting. LibLaugh cartoons for libraries. Okay. Receiving date, June 24th. Okay, so now we've got at least 4 examples. There may be more examples already in there. Okay, and that's all we need to do. Now we want to run the publishing profile. We verify that there's data. We run and we change the receiving date on a couple of them. Now we're going to see that the RSS publishing profile runs. Now normally it would run according to whenever it's scheduled. I'm going to run it manually right now. Publishing profiles, word libraries in the title. I'm going to say run, and she's off. Let's take a look here at our monitor jobs completed. That was quick. Already finished. Completed successfully. I always like to look at the report. Records processed 5. Okay, so we did 4 examples, if I'm not mistaken. There probably was already one in there. And now we want to see it. How do we see it? We use the RSS feed URL, which we made a moment ago. And we just stick it in the browser. Now, no, I'm not going to use Chrome before I want to do Ask. Yes, there's a problem currently with Chrome. A couple of questions related to that one as well. And let's stick this right in there. Okay, who thinks it's going to work? Let's get a hand raised before I click Enter. Who thinks now I'm going to get a nice RSS feed? Okay, one person thinks. Lynn, the Quarry, Patrina, you don't think it's going to work? Chris, Craig? Anybody else, raise your hands if you think this is going to work. Okay, Chris thinks it's going to work. Shirley, Patrina, how about you, McQuarrie and Craig? You don't think it's going to work? Lynn? Okay, we got 2 people who didn't raise. Okay, only one person left who didn't raise his or her hand. We'll assume she just can't find the raise hand button. Here we go. Now I'll be real embarrassed if it doesn't work. So I put in the RSS feed URL, which we made a moment ago. Here we go. Beautiful. So now we've got word libraries in the title feed. That is directly from the job. Yes, Shirley, I know you raised your hand. There's someone else who didn't, but that's all right. So here, we're going to go look at our profile again. Actions, edit. So the feed title is Word Libraries in the title feed. Here's my description. Ooh, I didn't want to pause. Resume. I hit the wrong button there. Okay, we're resuming. And here we've got Word Libraries. This is the title we put in. This is the description we put in. Here are our records. Now, if I click one of these records, I'll take, for example, LibLaugh2 Cartoons for Libraries. It goes directly to Alma. Notice it went right to Scope Alma University by itself because if you recall, when we built the RSS Discovery URL, we said search Scope Alma. Remember, we had Alma PC, and we wanted it to go directly to Alma, so we put in Alma, and it automatically goes there and searches. We click one of them, automatically goes there and searches in the correct scope. Okay, so that's the basics. Now we're going to get to the questions. That's the basics of setting up an RSS feed and running it. And before we actually hit the pre-sent questions, are there any questions or comments at this stage? One guy even wrote in, of course it'll work. That's the Alma confidence we're all looking for. Are there any questions or comments? You can either raise your hand, write in, or just start talking if you have a question and or a comment. I'll wait one moment. Is there an alternative RSS Discovery URL format? Let me get this one again. Okay, here's the question. Let me put it into big letters so everybody can read it. Okay, here's the question. Is there an alternative RSS Discovery URL format since we were upgraded to Primo 4.6? Okay, I happen to be here with my Primo expert. I think we already included everything for Primo 4.6 in this, didn't we, when we made the RSS Discovery URL?
It should be. So it depends on if you have, hi, first of all, I'm Rael. It depends on if you have all the parameters in or not. Starting from Primo ServPack 4.5, we've introduced more strict usage of the deep link, which is basically the DL, search.do, that's what it means, it's a deep link search. So we've sort of, there are certain fields that are mandatory, certain parameters that are mandatory, such as the search scope. That's the biggest one that we've noticed people haven't been using.
Right.
So it is not included in mine. Okay, so yeah. So that's exactly.
Oh, I'm going to add this important information, which is exactly what Rael said. The sender added right here, search scope is not included, so she's missing this.
Right. So as a total care, I'm assuming you're from CPIT. Yeah. So as a total care service, we should tell you what search scopes you can enter, and then you have to determine for each one of your RSS feeds which search scope you'll want to search in. So something that so for example, you could have a separate RSS feed. It cannot be in the same RSS feed. You would have a separate RSS feed which would, for example, perform the search in the Alma PC scope. That would have to be a separate feed. Obviously, Primo it's basically a deep link. It performs a real live search that could be replicated if you perform the same search in Primo. So you could only enter one search scope at a time. So we would give you the list of search scopes that you have, and you would have to determine which one you want to perform your search in.
Okay, thank you. So the bottom line is the search scope needs to be added to the RSS Discovery URL.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? None. Okay, so let's go to the pre-sent questions. Here we are, RSS feed, new item list, ask the expert. So this is now our 20th session, believe it or not. Welcome. Okay, we're recording. Where are defined in Alma fields from the bib records that are actually displayed in the XML element item of the RSS? is it possible to customize them? So to add, for example, ISBN. Okay, that's one question. I want to go look at question 3 because it's almost the same. We have requested the ISBN be included. Okay. So if we look here, like the person says, we don't have the ISBN. This is not something which is customizable. However, we have in our roadmap for 2015 to make some changes to this. One of the changes is to add the ISBN and or ISSN depending on the record. So it's in the roadmap 2015 and you can't change it yourself. Next. Where are our questions? Okay. Number 2. We would like to have new acquisitions also for electronic titles. Ooh. Would it be possible to have an RSS for them as well? Okay, that's also on our roadmap. It's going to be something called format agnostic, meaning agnostic I thought always related to religious or political beliefs, but this is going to be format agnostic. Not relating to the format. And the way we're planning on making this work is, if you noticed, when we found our items which had libraries in the title, we looked at the receiving date. So what we want to do, instead of the receiving date, of course, when it's electronic, is, who can take a guess? What's going to be the parallel of a receiving date for an electronic portfolio? You can raise your hand, send it in, or just start talking. Activation date, right. So the date of activation of the electronic portfolio will be what will determine if it's in the RSS feed or not. Okay, this one right here. So on the roadmap, also for 2015. Next question. 3 we did. 4 is like 2, same thing. They wanted to allow e-resources. We understand this on the roadmap. When can we expect it? 2015. RSS feed does not display in Google Chrome. I'm using version 35.0.1916.114 in some versions of IE. By the way, I think it does display properly in all current versions of IE, but that's another story. Any RSS feeds generated from Primo are problematic in the display in Chrome. Yes, there's an issue with Chrome. That's planned for September to be fixed, September of 2014. That's the plan. And you're right, the RSS feed does not display properly in Chrome. There's apparently something with the XML of the feed. We're fixing it for September. Let's just make sure it still doesn't work. Yeah, it comes out like this instead of actually making it display. Okay, which we saw here very nicely, it automatically displays. Okay, that covers all of the questions sent in. I know we're a little early. That covers a full demo of setting up, running, and viewing the RSS feed. Are there any other questions or comments before we close? Feel free to just raise your hand right now or start talking or whatever you'd like. Okay, so if there are no more questions or comments, we'll close here, and we thank everybody for joining, and we'll see you in our next session. Have a nice day.